Hi, I'm Selectman Sean Askham, and welcome back to another edition of Community Conversations. I'm thrilled to be joined once again by Selectman Cheryl Cook and Selectman Mike Paine. Welcome, guys.
Thank you.
How we doing?
Welcome.
Good to see you. So, first off, congratulations to you both and to all the elected officials in town as we were all sworn back in last night on
And to
December
you.
7th.
Yeah, that was great.
It was a great event. Representative Hampton was the master of ceremonies, and then I think there was probably, about 30 of us all total that were,
Yes,
that were
Yeah,
there
a
30,
last
lot
night.
35,
of a lot of newly elected board members
That's great.
and re-elected board members.
Yeah.
So it was a really great event, and being on Pearl Harbor Day, the remembrance of Pearl Harbor, we had a veteran come in that gave us a really poignant story on municipal leadership. And,
Exactly.
Yeah.
if folks have a chance, I encourage you to watch that program at home. It's probably about midway through the program.
Yeah.
Right.
About his time serving in Afghanistan and dealing with one of the municipal leaders over there and the challenges and the pressures that undergo.
We think we have it bad.
Yeah, there's
We got nothing on him.
Yes, it's thankfully we have no warlords and,
Right.
and other governments threatening us. So it's
It
it was a really interesting message and a great program overall. So
was.
Well, I thought it was great that so many people turned out.
Absolutely.
I mean, it was one of
Yeah.
the biggest crowds I've seen to,
it was
watch
Yeah.
everybody get sworn in, and
It was 3/4 plus
It
full.
was,
It was
and
great.
absolutely.
it was great to see the, all the cheering and the well wishes, and it was very
Was
much
nice.
appreciated.
It was.
It's good stuff for the town.
And then we immediately had our meeting, as we always do. Afterwards, the Board of Selectmen meeting, per the charter, has to be the first Monday in December. And we appoint our rules once again.
Right.
We review council. We elect a deputy. And we set our meeting schedule. So first, a little housekeeping item. Meetings are moving from 7 p.m. to 6 p.m.
Right.
going forward. So all Board of Selectmen meetings will be 6 p.m. We're trying that out this year. In an attempt to get more public participation, we often have a number of presentations, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, volunteers in the community, and oftentimes our meeting runs till 8, 9 o'clock, and these folks have to, unfortunately, sit and wait in the audience for their agenda items. So we thought that moving it up would be
Right.
a way to get folks home earlier to dinner and back to their families. So
Well, and it also works out good for town staff that need
does.
to be
Right.
there because they work till 7. So I think that helps out having them available. So it's a good thing.
absolutely.
Everything else will remain the same. Still
will.
get public audience in the beginning, and
Yeah.
we encourage everybody to come down and participate and let
Get
us
your
know how you're
5.
feeling.
Yep. And we chose Chris Kelly as our deputy going forward. With it a 3-3 board now, we decided that it was an opportunity for Chris to serve. So wish him well. He's
Right.
obviously going to do a great job, and I enjoyed finishing Nancy's term as deputy there. So. And again, it was nice to hear that all 6 of us pledged to do the business of the town and to make sure that we're working together, because obviously it's going to take 3 plus 1 to get anything done. So,
Right.
and again, not that it's really been different in the past on
No.
that.
It really
but
has not,
No, I would say about 95% of the time
if
we're
not more, yeah.
probably unanimous. And it was great to welcome our new selectman,
Yeah,
Elaine Lang.
Elaine.
Yep,
It was
absolutely.
her first meeting. So congratulations to her.
Yeah.
So many of you will see us at new liaison appointments. Each member of the Board of Selectmen is given typically 8 to 10 different liaison appointments where we would attend or work with commission members, CDC, finance, zoning, recycling, and our job is to go to the meetings, work with those members, report back needs, talk to town staff, budgetary items, any of those things to make sure that we're helping out those committees. So if you're seeing us at new meetings or new committees,
Right.
that's why we've got new assignments. So.
Surprise, we're coming.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So it's not just the 2 meetings a month plus
Yeah.
No.
our subcommittee meetings. There's dozens of other meetings that
Right.
we all attend throughout the months and
Right.
years. So.
And just for the public's information, if you have something you want to say or have an opinion about one of the committees that we are the liaison to, you should feel free to approach us, and we can pass your feelings on to whatever committee we
a good
serve on, to the committee chair, because we all liaison to the different boards and commissions. So just check the website. The list is there, and we're happy to help you out.
Absolutely. And one other important note from last night, we continued or extended the current temporary boards and commissions appointments. Typically, they are coterminous with the Board of Selectmen, and they would have expired yesterday. So we moved those into January. So if there's folks that are interested in serving on temporary boards or commissions, regardless of your party, get in contact with Town Hall, get in contact with one of us, and we can point you in the right direction, whether it be recycling, economic development commission, conservation, building code of appeals, you
There's
name
like
it. We've
20 different
Yeah,
boards.
there's a lot.
We've got plenty of opportunities for,
Yeah.
for folks to
Right.
volunteer their time. So,
So again, check the website. We welcome everybody's participation, and if you can give a couple hours a month, we'd certainly appreciate it.
absolutely.
That's what makes this town. I'm just amazed. Both the people that got involved that we saw get sworn in last night, but also all the different boards, commissions, and groups that the townspeople volunteer for.
Absolutely.
It's just amazing to me. It's wonderful.
Absolutely. And speaking of another volunteer commission hard at work, you've been keeping up with the Charter Revision Commission and the
I've been
exciting work
trying
that's been going
to,
on
but
there.
it's they're really getting down to business now.
Right.
And this is something that I'm sure is not on everybody's radar screen, but it should be, because what they're talking about now is essentially our form of government. And over the next few weeks, the commission is going to start, making some preliminary, decisions, having some votes, seeing how the commission is feeling about issues like town council, town manager, and I think that it's an opportunity for the public to weigh in before we get too far down this road, because this is going to end in a process where they make a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen, and the Board of Selectmen is going to make a decision whether to pass this on to a referendum. And the worst thing that could happen was for it to get to a referendum with a big change, and for people to not be aware of what's happening. And we don't want people to be surprised when changes come up. So I encourage everybody to, if you cannot make it to a meeting, SCTV has all of the videos online. I encourage you to watch some of them and inform yourself on what's going on, because there are big issues being discussed. And I just hate to run into somebody who says, I never knew that was happening. I didn't even know. And it's a terrible feeling, because all that information is available.
And part of it is, one of the things I didn't realize until I started really paying attention over the last couple of years, is this is not about, are we going to have a first selectman or a town manager, but it impacts a number of other boards and commissions, whether it's, do we want to consider putting planning and zoning together into one commission or committee, and but also the Board of Finance and all of these other things. We have a very good check and balance, if you will, in the town now. And not that it can't be improved, but it should be an improvement. And it requires us as voters to make informed decisions. And to do that, we need information. And frankly, the Charter Revision needs to hear from people, so that it's not the voice they hear in their head that they're representing us. So.
And the information is out there. I spent the day in Hartford today with other municipal leaders, including our first selectman, and it was a big topic of conversation. And it was surprising to me that people knew that Simsbury was considering this again, that a couple of people mentioned it to me. It has happened before. We have had votes on this before. They have been rather close. So I encourage people to tune in and start looking at that.
Important stuff.
Absolutely. And just from a timeline standpoint, so the Charter Revision Commission is meeting now. I believe their meetings are on Monday. That schedule is posted on the town website, which should be vastly improved shortly. It'll be much easier to find things, much better organized. A report from that commission is due to us in March, us being the Board of Selectmen. We comment on that report, we send it back. They finalize their report, and then we start our process, and we bring our process all the way through to the November election timeframe is when we're targeting for it to be on the ballot for your consideration. So, Cheryl, your points are absolutely right on. It's often we hear that folks are concerned about things, and it's time to vote on it, and it's too late to get involved in the process. Now is the time, and I know it's the holidays. Email, phone call, Fitzgerald's. There's lots of ways to get your voice heard. You wouldn't believe how many good ideas come out in the aisles of Fitzgerald's that we hear about, or in CVS or where else in town. So
and literally 2 weeks from now, before the holidays, that committee is going to consider the town manager question. So
that doesn't mean it'll be the last word on it, but
no,
that
they
is
are
a
going to
strong an important time.
Well, they're doing what we asked them to do, and
Right. They're moving along.
And they are doing it. So, and I applaud them for their work. They have brought in outside experts to discuss the issue. They have brought in statistics and data from other towns, and they are doing their work. And I hope everybody respects that work and pays attention to it.
Absolutely.
Well, and back to your earlier point, again, to plug SCTV, these meetings are taped. They are able to be watched. You can go to their website and pull them up. I pulled one up yesterday while I was doing some unimportant stuff at work, and was able to listen to it.
Right.
And there were a couple of times, wait a minute, what did they just say? And then back it up and listen to it. So that was great.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And Mike, you mentioned before being the liaison of the Planning Commission, we've got some exciting news in the Planning Department.
Right?
We have a new town planner.
Yep.
Yes, we
And
do.
Hiram Peck has left the Simsbury to move on, and Jamie, that's
Rabbit.
terrible, Rabbit, thank you. I couldn't remember his last name. Just came in, and I think he's been here 8 days, and very good young man, and heard him speak today to a group, and we have a good man there.
Absolutely. I would agree. I had the opportunity to sit down with him, and right away his grasp of just visual points in town and what matter to lifelong residents and to the aesthetics of the community. He commented on signs that we had done well and signs that we could have done better, and buildings that were well done. And then he would scratch his head and say, "All right, well maybe we could have tried this." So, and again, he was right on point with, I think, some of the critiques or criticism or accolades that we've heard from our residents. You know, that we've done some really great things in this community, and he was right in tune with that. So it'll be good to see him. And he indicated to me, which I was very pleased with, that his method of communication is to meet with people.
Yes.
To sit down. He'll come to your front yard. He'll come to the sign of concern. He'll come to the business of
Right.
concern, and he'll walk around with you and hear you out and listen to your concerns. He might not agree with it, but he's going to listen.
Yeah.
And I think that's all we ask for in this community
Right.
is for folks to have an open dialogue. So I'm excited to have him on board. And,
Yes.
And he's going to jump right in. We have a lot of projects
Got a lot
going
going
on
on.
in town.
Stuff going on.
A lot of big decisions being made from on our planning boards, and
Correct.
you know, a lot of people still forget that the zoning board actually has a lot of important business before them, and we've had a lot of very intriguing issues come before them. But one before us, which people might have been interested in, was the mansion on
Yes, the old Palmer Hall.
the old Palmer Hall. We discussed that before the Board of Selectmen.
just for
and-
those that don't know what that means, just in case, it's the big building across from the White Church down the road. So the southern gateway to the downtown area, which is
Right.
how I always identify with it.
Exactly.
Right.
But the developers asked for an abatement, and you know, we have a new business incentive policy, and following the policy, we considered it carefully. And I think the board felt strongly, then jump right in, correct me if I'm wrong, but
Absolutely.
that we felt that the preservation of the historic building was a priority for the board.
Absolutely.
And we decided to grant the abatement up to a certain amount, and in order to preserve the building.
Yes.
And
Yep.
There's you.
just to make sure that folks understand, so there's a large development that's already been approved, and I want to be careful. There's an approved development, not necessarily large, with a number of apartments and upscale apartment/living community down there. The idea is to have walkability
Right.
to the downtown area. That's already been approved by the land use commissions. What we did was approve the abatement piece, which hopefully will allow them to break ground, because they need investors, they need financial capital financial institution capital to come in and finance the project so that they can actually put the shovels in the ground. It's important to note for folks at home, why did you give an abatement? Why is an apartment complex? Well, we really didn't look at it like an apartment complex, because they are putting, correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, 7 or 8 different units inside the
Seven
bank
in the
itself.
main
I
building.
believe 7.
In the
Seven
bank
main
itself,
building.
and or the former bank, the former home, and that's the piece where we're actually going to abate is a portion of that, because our number one goal, as you articulated, was to make sure that that building is preserved for the way it is today, from an aesthetic standpoint, from a streetscape, from a visual standpoint. the lawn will remain intact, the building will remain intact. They're going to take down the chapel piece that was
Chapel and the brick on the back
sort of
side.
annex
added later
piece,
on.
yeah.
It really never quite fit to begin with, quite honestly. Obviously, they're going to take the ATM drive-throughs down as well. But it's really important that we did it in conjunction with the state as well, is offering some tax incentives for the historic preservation of the building.
Right.
When you preserve a building as old as that, much like the one we're in, there are a significant increase in costs.
Right.
Asbestos remediation, lead paint remediation,
Yep.
that doesn't exist in buildings that are, newer or
building.
in better
Right.
quality. Pipe issues, there's a lot more cost that goes into it. So the only way sometimes for these projects to happen is with a public-private partnership and abatements being part of it. So I was pleased that we were able to do it.
Right.
The business development community committee, which is made up of members from zoning, planning, zoning, the Board of Finance.
Finance, right.
The first selectman chairs it, and I believe the finance director is on there as well. Came to us with a unanimous recommendation after they had fully
Right.
vetted it. So it's a time intensive and it's a rather complicated process, but at the end I think we did it the right way because we're going to come out with what our number one goal is, as we've all said, is preserving that visual.
Right.
And making sure that our downtown community, especially the first gateway, the first thing that everybody sees when they drive in, stays the same.
Right.
Yeah.
So
And it's preserving the grassy area, if you will, in front of the building.
Exactly.
The abatement is spread out over 7 years, but we're still keeping a what I would call a minimum cash flow coming in. We're not doing away with
Right.
our revenue stream and encouraging them to come in and use this, if you will, as a stepping stone to be able to do the rest of it.
And in the
think it's-
end, with the increase in the value to the property, with all the improvements, the town comes out ahead.
Absolutely.
So in order to encourage that development, and for increased tax revenue down the road,
Right.
we are,
you help them to help us.
exactly.
well, and that's important to note it's a creative project, right? And I think that's a good usage of our time and a good usage of town staff is to find ways to make things work in this community that works for the community, not just for the developer, not just for the
Right.
town. There needs to be a happy median in there, and again, from what I think we approved and from the documents that we read and from the way we've structured it, I think there's adequate protections built in for everybody, and I think it's going to be a project that we can all be proud of. They have to complete the whole thing to get the abatements,
To
so
get the
they can't do
Right.
they can't do the back parcel and leave the
Right.
building.
Nope.
It's all tied together. So
It's
there's
all or none.
we're very lucky to have some extremely competent town staff and town attorney to make sure that those types of things are included in the contract. Obviously, you pointed some of that out as well, which is always nice to have your expertise when we're doing contracts. So I
to
appreciate
help.
that.
It's good.
It's always
But we've got other big projects on the horizon.
We do.
We continue to discuss the senior center.
we are.
Senior Community Center.
Yep, we are moving. We are moving somewhere.
Step by step.
If folks didn't have the chance to tune into the Board of Selectmen meeting most recently, I ask why. I mean, it's a riveting couple of hours. But if you didn't get a chance to, we spoke to bond counsel, and bond counsel is who we utilize to understand bond language, what projects we can bond, can't, challenges, risks, all sorts of things that go in with bonding from a municipal standpoint, and whether we have the ability to bond on leasehold improvements, how long.
Right.
And the reason that came up is because we're considering the old Andy's grocery store as a
Right.
potential senior center option. There are some challenges there from an environmental standpoint, from just a building standpoint, from a parking standpoint. We've got to look at all those.
Right.
But the good news is the square footage is intact. There is significant square footage, actually, I think more than we
Right.
needed originally.
Yes.
We have the ability to improve but not own a building, which can potentially lower the lifetime cost of a project like this, or allows for phasing. There's a lot of interesting flexibility as a result of this. But we've got to do our due diligence. We've got to make sure that we can overcome the environmental challenges that perhaps exist and some of the other issues. But it's exciting that
Right.
we continue to move.
Right.
We're moving down the road. It might not feel like it because there's no hammers and nails yet, but
Yeah.
as I can tell you, as far as municipal government goes, we are moving.
Well, and those issues that you brought up really apply to any site.
Correct.
That and if there was a perfect site, there would be something there by now, but there is not.
Correct.
So, we've tried to narrow it down and to keep the ball moving forward.
Correct.
We are still working on, improving programming, working with our town staff at the current senior center, to continue to assess the needs of the senior population. So
Correct. And that's a great point, and that's why I'm particularly proud of how we're doing this process. Town staff is brought to us, and we've hired a consultant and we've talked about this before, but it's just if folks haven't had a chance to tune in, that he's an expert in this country on senior centers and programming.
Nationally
so that
known.
we make sure we get the programming right first. Then we build a building for the needs. Not we build this building and oops,
right.
it doesn't serve the needs. Which
The room's
I think,
too big, too small.
I think
whatever.
other communities have gone down that road, and quite honestly, years ago we were going down that road, and I'm glad we put the brakes on it and got some additional direction. And just to be clear, we're not abandoning the Performing Arts Center either. That is still ongoing. There's an architect involved already. There's drawings. We're still charging down that path because that was the path that we endorsed at this point.
Right.
But we don't want to shut out any other good ideas, especially ideas that can potentially save the community money.
Well, and frankly, since we endorsed the Performing Arts Center, the diversified use between there and Eno, we had two other sites come in, both the mansion site, which they then asked to withdraw that one,
Correct.
and Andy's.
Yep.
So we really have three sites, and I think part of our due diligence is to find a site that will work the best for the town, that both balances what you want, what you need, and what you want to have going forward.
Absolutely.
And I know we're going to get there. I know my personal goal that we've kind of, and the rest of us have shared, is we really want to get this into the coming budget session, at least so the planning is in there.
Correct.
As a placeholder, if you will. And so that really comes down to the next 4 or 5 months at the most.
That's an excellent segue to my favorite time of year, Mike. As, we're about to get
go
it. Boom. It's budget season, my friends, and it's like Christmas for me. So we, the first selectman and obviously the Board of Education has already started
Right.
putting together the two budgets. We'll get involved. We've had a 3-board meeting with the Board of Finance, the Board of Selectmen, and the Board of Ed that my now retired father chaired, so it was his last meeting. And now we are rapidly approaching budget season, which will be, I think, a challenging one. We had to utilize a lot of creative thinking, a lot of sound budgetary thinking in the practice in the prior year. But again, there's only so many dollars. We're not sure what's going to happen with the state. Today is December 8th, and Lord knows what our friends in the legislature are going to do. The governor
tomorrow.
The governor has proposed some pretty I don't know what word I should use, radical, scary, interesting, and again perhaps creative ideas. It'll be interesting to see what actually happens when they pass it, and then what the fallout is from what they think they passed, which is often what we see. We've got some expectations that the mill rate that they've enacted on us on the car tax.
The cars.
Yep.
For folks that don't know, the mill rate is changing for your car. It will no longer be the same mill rate that the Board of Finance sets in Simsbury. It's now set at the state level. The state has promised to hold municipalities harmless, meaning that if our mill rate was 35 and the state's is 32, they're going to make up the difference in the 3 mills and send that revenue back to our community. Our difference is actually larger. So that we don't have to raise taxes on homes, because we've got to get the revenue somewhere, unless we were to take some pretty drastic changes. So it's, but again, until that money's deposited, who knows? So we don't know if it's coming or not.
And it's a year behind.
Correct. It comes at the end of the fiscal
right,
year versus.
So we first have to collect the reduced revenue,
Correct. So
and then
we being the town, we don't send you the bill. The town does.
right.
Don't hate us. The tax collector sends the tax bill for your car. You pay your car. We run the municipality off that, and then 12 months later, if the state chooses to give us the difference, they give us the difference.
Right.
So we're all holding our crossing our fingers that we don't have to to do anything drastic from a tax standpoint. But again, we'll see what happens. The state's in a tough place. You know, they're trying to squeeze out more revenue from places that don't seem to have it. But we'll see what the impacts are, and we'll make sure that we communicate that out to everybody. You know, we find out as fast as
Right.
you know you folks do at home. So it's interesting times. So we're entering the holiday season, so we've got a lot going on.
We are.
But no rest for the weary. But it's exciting. Again, it was really nice to see everybody, and it's always wonderful to see how many volunteers come out for this community to raise their hand, win or lose, and put their name on the ballot.
Right.
And serve this community. And you know, if you see an elected official or you know an appointed official, thank them. If you want to be one, come talk to us.
Right.
We'd love to have
Come
more
on down.
folks. It's what makes this town great. You know, Mike, you always point that out, and I think it's extremely appropriate.
It's amazing how many boards and commissions and people, 100+ volunteers would be my guess,
Oh,
if
at
not
least
more.
It's
More,
several
yeah.
hundred, I believe. Yeah.
And it's just mind-boggling.
Right.
It's
And speaking
wonderful.
of our volunteers, I just want to say a big thank you to the Simsbury Celebrates
Oh,
volunteers.
yes.
Who
Wonderful event as
Another
always.
they
great
put on a
weekend.
great event. I was out there talking to the people. I know you were out
Yeah.
there talking to the people. It's just such a warm community event.
Just-
You
it's
know,
good
everybody's
stuff.
happy and together, and it's really nice.
Yeah.
So,
And the fire truck parade is very
the fire
cool.
truck parade.
That is my favorite
I was
part.
assigned to the Historical Society this year, so I got to see the kids doing the Nutcracker in the meeting house. It was
Oh.
just amazing. They were great.
Nice.
So
No.
no, the whole thing is good. Again, all run by volunteers. You know, a lot of people think that the town pays for that somehow. We do not. They have donations. And if anybody feels like they want to contribute for next year,
Yep. Just let us
Please
know.
do.
We can
Check
point you in
the
the right
website.
direction
Yeah.
for that.
yep.
We'll hook you up.
Well,
Exactly.
Yep.
So again, congratulations to both of you. It's
And to
looking
you.
forward to
Same to
serving
you.
with you again for the next 2 years as all 6 of us work together to move this town forward. So I think that'll wrap up today with
Right.
our edition of Community Conversations. And thank you to SCT for having us once again. And we look forward to seeing you at the next one. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Funding for Simsbury Community Television is provided in part by contributions from viewers like you. Thank you.